a new teacher is coming on. It's going to be their first year, and they're asking a question about, is there, if I'm going to have difficult students, how do I approach them?
Basically, I would say be firm, but gentle, if you will, because we never know what baggage these children are bringing to school with them every day. As you stated prior, things have changed so much since we were in elementary, middle, high school. And so they have so many more issues that they're dealing with. So as a matter of fact, one of my neighbors down the hall there at school, this is her second year, I believe. And so I told her during her first year, okay, you got to get some control, there in your room. You can't let them take over the classroom, Love them and be kind to them, but let them know that you are the authority in the room. They can't be disrespectful. They can't, say all things over you. And so just kind of keep check on them. Ask them how things are going. Sometimes I go knock at the door and say, hey, or see them in the hall. Just check on them. Make sure everything's going all right with them.
That's good. Welcome to the Americus Podcast, where we're pursuing what it means to become a next level neighbor, creating a place we enjoy with the people we love. My name is John Schroeder, and today I'm joined by Pamela Harvey. Pam is an educator and a minister who has taken the time to write a book, which I'm really excited about. And so stay tuned. We're going to hear a little bit more about that. She was born and raised in Americus, and so we're going to have fun with this podcast. So Pam, thank you so much for joining us on the Americus Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. So Pam, one of the things that I could tell right away is your love for education, but also your love for educating students in a very productive way. So tell me a little bit, how long have you been in education?
It is a total of almost about 3 months from 29 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time, right? And I am sure, as I mentioned right before the podcast, that there have been several initiatives and programs and things that have taken place over the last 30 years that have been really, really done really well. And so I would just love to hear really quick something that you have just been very impressed by, just as an educator, as a teacher, something that you're very thankful to be a part of or seen, and maybe an initiative that didn't really go as planned and is still trying to figure out, if there's enough traction to keep it going. So your thoughts on that? Maybe a couple of months ago, we were allowed the opportunity, local churches got involved with wanting to see prayer over our schools, over the grounds, and for our students and the educators, our leaders in the city. And we were allowed to do that. Of course, it was outside of school hours, but there were several local churches that got involved, visited the local campuses, and different groups went to different sites and prayed over the sites. And in my particular school, we did an initiative our principal allowed is prayer at the pole on Monday mornings. And so that is still going very well. I am so proud because it's so needed. I'm proud that stuck and has stayed. Yeah, that's really good.
I'm proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, I remember going to school and standing up and doing a pledge and having, a moment of silence and prayer. And so it's really good to be able to see people the community investing into the schools, and letting them know, hey, look, we're here for you, right. Not just for your education, but for you as a person. So that's a really big deal, and we need to continue to do things like that as a community. So, well, one of the things that we talk a lot about on the podcast is, it's not just what you do, right? Sometimes we try to quantify a person by what they do. So when you hear something like lawyer, educator, you're like, oh, that must be a very smart, great person. And then you're just like, well, what about a janitor? Well, and then we begin to do that because we think that is what defines a person. But it's more about who the person is than what they do. And so we always on this podcast want to ask that question, who are you? Because that is a very important question instead of just what do you do? So tell me a little bit, who is Pamela Harvey?
Okay. Pamela Harvey is a mother. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a minister. I'm an educator, and I am a lover of people.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So all of that is impacted with a life of experience growing up, being born and raised right here in Americus. So I would love to hear a little bit about those dynamics when you were born. What was going on? What was your family dynamic like? Where did you grow up? Tell me a little bit about that.
I was born and raised up here at, it was Sumter Regional Hospital at that time, but grew up my earlier years in a small city outside of Americus called Cobb, Georgia. Are you familiar with that?
I am not, no.
It's right in between Americus and Cordele.
Okay.
You know, there's Leslie, DeSoto, and then there's Cobb.
Okay.
And then there's Cordele. So pretty close to the Lake Blackshear there. So I grew up there, very small neighborhood, tight-knitted, like family.
Yeah.
With all the neighbors. And back then, neighbors were not just people that lived next door to you. They were actually family. Wow. And you've heard stories about where people could borrow a cup of sugar or eggs or something from that was the kind of neighborly environment I grew up in. All the kids played together, and at school we say we were cousins and were just that tight. So growing up, that was like an extended family. I was proud to grow up in an atmosphere like that, because even now that all of us are grown and have our own children, we are still, I would say, friends. We reach out on Facebook and still have relationships. So.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So tell me a little bit about, mom and dad. What did they do? What were they like?
My father, when we were really young, he farmed.
Okay.
And so he spent a lot of hours away, about farming hours. So that's what he did. Mom, she worked in a factory, wood grain moldings. She worked at Textron for several years too. But so she did factory type work. As we grew older, she moved into food service.
Okay.
So she worked at the local college in food service.
Okay. All right. Now you said that you had
my dad became a truck driver, and so he had driven trucks a long time.
Yes. Yes. Well, you said you had some siblings. So are you the oldest? Or are you the middle? Where are you at?
I am the oldest.
Okay.
Oldest girl. And then there's the middle girl.
Okay.
And the baby was a boy. He's deceased now, but there were three of us.
Okay. All right. So growing up, you had to take responsibility, right?
Definitely.
You're the big sister.
Definitely.
Making sure everything's going well, make sure everybody gets home safe, all those types of things. Were you an extrovert kind of person? Were you a people person? Did you like just being alone? What was your personality like?
Early on, I would say probably more introverted.
Yeah.
Because I was a mini mom. And so we'd get home off the bus. Of course, both of our parents were gone. And I'd have to make sure we all got home safely, like you said. Make sure we did homework, got chores done. Yeah. There were some evenings I had to cook. So had a lot of responsibility. And so I was always overly mature, I guess, for my age. Because life forced me to have to be. And so I didn't really deal with a lot of kids, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So someone would be like, come on, Pam. You're like, nope, I got things I got to do.
Amazingly, when we'd have time to go outside to play with the other kids, I didn't want to be outside.
Yeah.
I'd rather be cooped in the house doing something or hanging out with the grown people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So when you had to cook, was there like a favorite thing that you liked to cook, or just something that was easy for you that you really enjoyed having to do?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I just kind of see what was in there and go in and just try to help my mom out.
Yeah.
And of course, she loved it. She was appreciative. And actually, I have one of my sons is like that now.
Nice.
Some afternoons he'll say, well, I want to cook, supper, and he'll cook. And I am very proud and grateful to have that break. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, all right. So you're growing up, you're helping take care with your family. When you're going to school, what are relationships like? What are you looking for? Do you have certain aspirations, or are you just getting through school and just kind of taking life as it comes?
For the most part, I would say just kind of taking life as it came. I sing by nature, so I've always loved to sing.
Okay.
And at one point, I thought I wanted to go to college, a musical college, and
Nice.
College of Music, Berkeley, out in California. But Mom didn't see that possible sending me away there, so kind of gave up on that.
Okay. Didn't have the American Idol just yet, so you could go try it out and kind of see what your potential was. Okay. All right.
Look, the closest I got to that was local church choir. So,
Come on.
I sang there.
Hey, listen, local church choirs, they're serious about their people now.
Oh, yeah. Even as a youngster, probably be 6, 7. I sang with the adult choir.
You just went off a key. Everybody heard it. Okay. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be ready. That's tough. No, that's great. So going through middle school, high school, you're having a passion for people. You're having a passion for the things that are really, really important. What are some other things that have impacted your life going through school, meeting different dynamics, friendships that have brought you to this place now where you care so much about education, you care so much about people? What were some experiences during that time?
Actually, I had a couple of incidences growing up where I was bullied. And so I took that along life with me. I never wanted to see anybody else be hurt or something said hurtful to them or done that hurt people. Yeah. And so going into education kind of allowed me that opportunity to be a protector of those who might not have been strong enough to protect themselves. But was able to nurture them there at school and let them know that they had a safe place in me. And so every classroom I've ever taught in, that's a major role for me, to be watchful of different things that are going on around, the area, and not allowing any child to bully another child. Yeah.
So that's a good question. What are some signs that maybe you experience or that you've developed over time when it comes to things like bullying?
A lot of times, students will be withdrawn to themselves. I mentioned earlier that I was kind of introverted. That was part of the reason, because I don't know, you just kind of lose hope in people when you're hurt by someone you might have thought was your friend, or you were okay with them. Yeah. And then they do or say hurtful things to you. So I'm always watchful of that kid that's standoffish from everybody else. And always alone. If they eat by themselves, I'm the one that finds, hey, how are you? May I sit with you? Just try to give them a place of comfort or a smiling face to confirm that you're not alone. Yeah.
And I've always, I think another good understanding is, where does this bullying come from? Why does someone feel the need to press or to push people down? And that's always a thing that we need to tackle too. It's okay, there's something that's happening in their lives where they feel like this is okay.
Right.
And I don't know where that comes from. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I believe deep down it's a self-esteem issue. Sometimes they're dealing with things at home where they're being bullied, could be by older siblings, or they see things going on in the home between adults where one is more controlling over another, if you will. That biggest thing, self-esteem. Different children that I've spoken to who were on that end of being the person that was doing the bullying, once I sat them down and would talk to them, I discover that deep down they had an underlying issue with themselves that caused them to feel more in control, more empowered when they made someone else feel weaker.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sad, because both people are affected
Yes.
in very, very real ways.
Yes.
And those are scars. And, I'm constantly reminded that scars remind us that we're still here, but they're real. And so, well, I think this is another important aspect of it because, okay, if as you're growing up and you're experiencing that, there are several ways you could go. One is more into despair, just discouragement. I'm just going to be more for myself. I'm not going to worry about these things. And so you could become less compassionate towards others, or you can just be completely disengaged. But it seems to me that you saw this as an opportunity to be compassionate towards others. I want to know where that comes from. Why was that your path and not any other? Why the positive path and not necessarily the negative or the disdained?
I just think the hurt I felt, I just never wanted anybody else to feel that way. I was the older child, of course. I didn't have an older sibling that I could talk to, that I felt like somebody was there to protect me. And so I just think I probably developed a protector kind of mindset for others, just not to see anybody else at war with each other. There's so much of that goes on in the world, even today, with adults. And it's a sad position, I feel, to be in, to make war with people unnecessarily. And that's not God's will. There's scripture that tells us that if at all possible, to be at peace with all men. And so I live by that truly every day of my life. I don't think that there's anybody on the face of this earth that could say that I deliberately did or said something that was harmful to them or tried to maliciously destroy somebody. That's just not my character.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, obviously from an educational standpoint, as a teacher, you're able to impact, students and help them to process how they're going to deal with that particular situation. What were some things that you did as a student experiencing those things? Were you able to, at the time, confront some of those things, or how are you able to process that?
There was this one time, there's this young lady that I used to have really long hair, me and my sister when we were growing up. And I don't know what this little girl's problem was, but every time my mom, after we got a certain age, she would take us to the beauty salon to get our hair done. And this young lady would just take me. We'd go out to the playground, and I would always hate to go outside. Most children love to go to recess. I would hate when that time was coming because I tried to avoid the children because of bullying. And I tried to be up there near where the teachers were. And I remember so many times them say, go with other children, go play. That's another reason why I'm watchful of students. When they're trying to hang around you, there's a reason. Because yes, children most likely like to be around their peers, but if they don't, there's an underlying issue. And so I chose to pay attention to that particular student who's that particular way. But yes, and she would just take me by my hair and just take my ponytails and pull me across the playground. I just dreaded going out. Because I didn't feel that if the teachers ran me away, who was I going to tell? So I feared going out. But there was this one day I just really got tired. There's this cliche I've heard people say, when you get tired of being tired, you'll do something about a situation. And I seriously got tired of pulling on my hair. And one day she pulled in and I maneuvered my way out and I balled my fist up and I hit her and she went running away across the parking lot. And I never had another ounce of trouble out of her. But it was not my will, my want to fight. I didn't want to do that. But it was the only way for me to protect myself.
Well, thank you for sharing that because that's again, that's not something that you want to repeat or to experience again. And yet it's a part of your story. And so thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
and okay, so you're going through this, you're let's say high school kind of, looking towards the future, right? You're about to graduate. Where's your thinking at that point? Did you always want to get into education? Did you have some other paths?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
So you knew.
I never thought education.
Okay.
Like I said, at one point, I wanted to go to this Berklee College of Music in California.
Okay.
And my mom's finances, of course, says, no, you're not going there. You can't send your way there. What if something happens? We can't get to you in a hurry. So that was kind of shut down.
Okay.
I thought for a moment, when recruiters would come to see students during lunch break, and there was this one recruiter I began talking to, and it was the Air Force. So I thought, okay, well, that might be a good future. And so I talked with him, and he had told me about scheduling the appointment to take ASVAB. And we went on a field trip to the Coca-Cola plant in Atlanta my senior year, the beginning of the year. And we went upstairs to tour the second or third level of the building. And I remember looking down at the foyer and realized at that moment I had a fear of heights.
Uh-oh.
And so I remember thinking, oh my God, if I'm afraid on this flight of stairs, how on God's green earth would I be in planes, protecting the country? So I shut that down. And I remember I shared this with my children, that I didn't want them to feel like I was pressuring them growing up, but I wanted them to identify with what it is they were good at, that they thought they could possibly make a career of. Because I shared with them when I walked across the stage to get my diploma, that rather than that being one of the most proud moments of a person's life, it was one of the most fearful of mine because I had no clue of what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that was a very scary emotion.
Yeah.
To get to the point where you're graduating high school.
Yep.
There are parents that are going to consider you an adult.
Yep.
And you don't have a career path. You don't know what it is you're going to do. And so they had said, we were going to either work or go to school, or, go to military. So and military was X'd out. Couldn't go to the college I thought I wanted to go to.
Yep.
So I said, okay, I'll just go to work.
Okay.
And so I did. For about a year and a half, I worked right across the street at the Windsor Hotel as a waitress. And I realized really soon that I needed to get some additional education. So I decided I didn't want to do 4 years of college. I'll just go to the tech school. So I did. I ended up getting an accounting diploma and went on to Georgia Southwestern to get an associate's in the accounting area. Then realized I would need some more because in the meantime, I earned a position there at South Georgia Tech. And I worked there almost 10 years.
Wow.
In an accounting position, accounts receivable. And so realized, I don't think I want to do this forever. I just didn't. It was fine. I made a good living, but it wasn't what I wanted to do forever.
Yeah.
And so I got a position in the school system, and my principal there, because half the day I was doing the secretarial type stuff in the front office. And then part of the day I would kind of manage or oversee a daycare we had there for us local students that had, children or whatever, to keep them in school. For that not to be a reason for them to drop out. And so she came to do a couple of observations. I had to teach a parenting class also. And she came to do a couple of observations. And I remember her saying to me, you need to consider going to school to get your degree to teach. And I said, no, I don't think so. That's not me. Said I'm kind of old school and I'm a disciplinarian. She said, that's what they need. You need to consider that. And I said no initially, but the more and more I thought about it, and the more and more I worked around children, I saw the need. And so I still tell her now that I thank her for instilling that thought, because eventually that thought became an action, and then a career for me.
Yeah.
And so, it helps to have people.
I was going to ask you, kind of, we talked a little bit about, people that have made kind of even negative impacts in your life, but there are people that have made influential impacts in your life,
definitely.
and so it's a reminder to us, even in that moment, that we can speak encouragement to people. We can let them know what we see in them, even though they can't necessarily see it in themselves, or they don't know that it's there just yet.
Right.
And so it's just an amazing thing of, someone just investing into you and saying, hey, I see something. And it kind of starts that journey. And I think that it's really encouraging that we would do that still to one another.
Right.
That we're always finding things that we don't like. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But our proactive discipline, our desire to see things in people and say, hey, I really appreciate this about you.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So
actually, I saw her picture on the wall. You've obviously done an interview with her. She serves on city council now. Okay. Miss Juanita Wilson.
Yeah.
That was my former principal inspired me to go into education. So.
I love it. Well, as we're on that, is there anyone else up to this point or a little bit further ahead in your life that was influential to you in a positive way?
Yes. Miss Victoria Harris. She was one of my principals that I worked under. Miss Sharon Jackson, or Dr. Jackson now. They've all been very influential women, and I have often thanked them for playing positive roles in my life. And because it's so important that when we get to a point of success, that we reach back and help the next person that's coming along. Yeah. And those three women did that for me. No blood relation, just good, God-fearing people who saw the desire to help a young woman who they saw something in, like you said, maybe that I didn't even see myself. So I often thank them for being those positive role models in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, so now you're in education. You're starting to go through that. Give me a little bit of your educational journey of where you taught and things like that, so we can kind of get up to where we're at today.
Okay. I taught my first full-time position, because I did work at Americus High, all right, before they merged the two high schools. That's where I was telling you, did part of the office work and did a parenting class, and then ran the daycare. Then I transferred over to what was the 9th grade academy. That was under Miss Harris. I worked there, I think, about 3 years as a 9th grade business teacher. I left there, went to Terrell County, still in business. I taught there about 7 years. I have worked in Quitman. I was driving every day, just about 3 miles from Eufaula. Okay. And that drive just got to be too much for me. So right at a year doing that, I went over for a year to Terrell YDC. Okay. And then back home these last 5 or 6 years. Okay. So Lord's willing, I'll retire here at home.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you have a particular class or a student that always just comes to mind?
I love teaching my business classes. Excuse me. Right now, I'm doing computer science. But I realized my true passion was business, because people can take those skills anywhere in life. And so I do miss those classes. Particular students, I've met a lot of amazing young people over these years, built relationships with them that I still have. They'll reach out to me on Facebook, or if I still have their number, I'll call them up if I start thinking about them, or they'll text me or call. So come by when they're home off break from college, come to see me. So I can't say one in particular. I'm humbled that so many still care so greatly for me and remember me. So that tells me that I did a lot of positive things for them to even remember who I am and still want to have relationship with me. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. I do think that education is getting more difficult, not necessarily because of the curriculum, but the students are dealing with a lot of different things now that I never even dealt with growing up as a student. I was there right before, I remember going to class and being like, oh yeah, we're using computers now, but it's like, that's all it is now. And so I'm kind of like right in the middle between right before everything became super technical. And now it's at the height, and I'm still trying to figure out my place and everything. But, students are growing up with all these different things. And I would think as a teacher, it's really hard to come into an environment like that and try to figure out how to impact students, especially not only are they being bullied maybe in class, but they're also being bullied outside of class with people that they've never met before on a computer screen.
Yes.
Because all they want to do is find certain relationships or groups of people that they can engage in, and then you just have people that are just on there that are just vicious. And so what I would love to hear from you as a teacher, how best can you or other teachers influence these kids right now? Like, what's an ingredient of a teacher that's needed to handle even difficult children that are coming in with so much on their plate? Because sometimes you just want to write it off and just be like, well, this is a difficult student. Somebody else will deal with it. I'm just going to focus on the kids that are doing great. How do you, and I see you shaking your head because that's not you. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me.
I have always been a rooter for the underdog. I love the underdog. Yeah. So that difficult kid that's in the building, send them to me.
Yeah.
and I'm grateful because I don't go in any day off my own strength. I pray every day before I go and ask the Lord to allow me to be a light to whoever sees me, that they see him through me, not me. Don't see me at all. But I think because of the mindset and that prayer precedes me in the building, that helps me to be able to approach a kid that's being difficult in the building. And humility, because I never go to them in a forceful manner, in an authoritative way. It's always, hi, how are you? Can I speak to you for a minute? And I'll invite them to my room or sit on the bench right outside the room or whatever. And if it's not my student, I don't know, I'll say, what's your name? And then I'll introduce myself and say, hey, I saw you having some difficulty with such and such. What's going on with you? I just don't believe that's your character. Can you tell me what's going on with you? So you can have I can try to do whatever I can to help you have a better day. Yeah. And so most times that works, it solves it. I'll check with them throughout the day. Hey, is your day better? You good? And I got ones, they'll come through, hey, we fist bump every day. Yeah. Like, hey, we're going to have a great day today. Yes, ma'am. And so I'm just really, I'm humbled to be able to have that kind of influence or impact on today's generation. I think it helps that I have children in their peer group because there are things they share with me that I'm able to, kind of take into consideration when I'm dealing with people in that age category. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So let's say a new teacher is coming on. It's going to be their first year, and they're asking a question about, is there, if I'm going to have difficult students, how do I approach them? What would you say? Kind of give your crash course on for them to bring them in.
Basically, I would say be firm, but gentle, if you will. Because we never know what baggage these children are bringing to school with them every day. As you stated prior, things have changed so much since we were in elementary, middle, high school. And so they have so many more issues that they're dealing with. So as a matter of fact, one of my neighbors down the hall there at school, this is her second year, I believe. And so I told her during her first year, okay, you got to get some control, they're in your room. You can't let them take over the classroom, love them and be kind to them, but let them know that you are the authority in the room. They can't be disrespectful. They can't, say all things over you. And so just kind of keep check on them. Yeah. Ask them how things are going. Sometimes I'll go knock at the door and say, hey, everything going okay? Or see them in the hall. Mm-hmm. Just check on them. Make sure everything's going all right with them.
That's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. Well, I mean, and we say this all the time, and we mean it, that, the children are our future, and, and we want to invest into them. And, and this city is so important, and it's so valuable. I've only been here for a year, and I see what it already is and the potential of what it can be. So I'm very thankful for it. And I love the fact that I just keep meeting people that truly, again, not just care about the result of, I want you to do this because X, Y, and Z, but there's a compassion that comes with that. There's a value there that I think is really, really important. So what are some values from that, from your life that you hold on to? We're talking about, again, being a next level neighbor. There's certain values that come with that, it's values of sacrifice, honesty, transparency, values of, I use the value of wonderment, that we actually are truly interested in people. So when I'm talking with you, like, there's a wonderment that comes with, there's a value that says, I'm not going to assume after 3 or 4 sentences that I know you.
Right.
I want you to tell me who you are. So those kind of values are really, really important. And again, going back to when you were growing up and what it meant to be a neighbor, what are some values that you see and that you hold on to that's really important when you think about neighboring?
When I think about neighboring, actually goes back to scripture, love thy neighbor as thyself. And I do that. I pray for my neighbors. I pray with my neighborhood. If I hadn't seen somebody in a while, I'll go and not, hey, I was just checking on you and want to make sure everything was okay. Hadn't seen you guys in a while. Or, if the fire truck comes over, I'm going to go show my face. Is there anything I can do, to help out? Everything okay? Just showing the love of Christ, like we're required to by Christ. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that reminds me of, again, we've already said it a few times, but compassion and just the value of presence, just being available to people.
Yes.
I've really tried to figure that out in my own life of, I have so many hours in the day, and if I fill it up with so many things, then if something does happen to my neighbor, I don't have the time. And so I need to make time for things that I can't foresee, And so I think that's really, really great that you're, being able to pay attention to what's going on around you and make the time for that.
Yes.
And so that's an amazing thing. So, okay, so you're helping students and you're loving them and educating them and you're carrying some of that load with them. So how do you, what do you say to yourself to get through even difficult moments in your life?
I'm reminded of the sacrifice that God made for us by giving his son's life so that we had a chance to live. And so when you think about such a huge sacrifice made for you, it's nothing for us to be kind to each other, or that's the way I feel. There's nothing bigger than that sacrifice that was made for us. And so I just believe in staying humble, doing the right things by people. I don't know, that's just really big to me. Staying humble.
Yeah. So taking the time to reflect and meditate on what you have received has been very beneficial for you as you step into the ring, right? You step into the ring, you step back. I've used this illustration a few times that's been very helpful to me, but I don't play basketball really well, but I love, the greats. I love Michael Jordan. And so I was thinking about this illustration where, in relationship with God, what God wants from us, what God wants to see for us is, in our minds, we think, well, if Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time, which I think he is, that like he's our coach and we're on the basketball court and we're going against Shaquille O'Neal, whatever that obstacle is, right? It's bigger than us. It's better than us. And so we feel like we need to get help from our coach. And so we, talk with God, we pray with him, and he tells us all the things we need to do, and we get back out there. Well, the reality is that we'll never beat Shaq ever. But what scripture actually teaches is that God wants us to sit on the bench and let Michael Jordan play.
Yeah.
Because he'll win every time, And so like the recognition of and the beauty that God has done the work for us allows us to enjoy our participation in it. Oh, yes. And it gives us the energy to do what God's required us to do, right?
Exactly.
And so and to take suffering knowing that he's taken that suffering. So I mean that's a beautiful picture of what you're describing in those moments. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this book that you've written. It's called In Time of Trouble, Stop and Pray, right? All right. So tell me a little bit about this book. Where did it come from? Why what inspired you to write it? And tell us a little bit about it.
It's God inspired, came straight from my heart, and things that he dealt with me on as he was giving me. There was a frame of about 2 weeks that I wake up between 2 and 4 a.m. And I'd write or type in my phone these poems that were coming. And I'd be there and I'd be thinking, oh my God, this is beautiful. And I remember having this conversation with the spirits that, okay, what would you have me to do with these? These are beautiful. And I honestly hear the Spirit of God tells me, put them in a book. Said, okay, I never thought about writing a book, but okay, what would I call it? And it gives me the title. I'm all excited. I'm still typing there on my phone, and it's okay, a cover. And I hear a voice say, clouds. Well, for the last few years, I've been infatuated with God's creation, the skies, the clouds, and moon, stars, all these things that he gives us, beautiful things to see, to witness, as a witness that he exists. And I was brought back to my cloud bank of pictures that I had in my phone. And the title, In Times of Trouble, Stop and Pray. And as I was going through the pictures, I remembered this picture that I had taken right below where I live. One evening I was going to the little store right up the street, and I remember looking over in the sky and thinking, oh my God, that's beautiful. Pulling my phone out and just taking the picture. I remember that stop sign was there. Nice. So once I started working on the book cover, the young lady that, created it for me, I said, I have this picture and this whatever you have to do to make this the cover, I need this as the cover. Yeah. So it was just more than a personal demand. It was spiritual because I heard the voice of the Lord tell me step by step about the title, the cover, and all of that. So it was very imperative that things lined up. Yeah. And it's so near and dear to my heart because there's another great thing you talked about, great things and great people here in Americus. This scenery, when people see this book, this is Americus, Georgia. When you see these clouds and that beautiful background, this is here in our city. And there are a lot of beautiful things here. This right here. I'm just in awe every time I see it. Yeah. Every time I think about it, how God strategically ordained every poem in there, the cover, the title. Yeah, yeah. So is it full of, you mentioned poems? Is it kind of like daily devotions, or is it just prayers? Well, the subtopic is spiritual poems of encouragement. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier about how to encourage somebody else when they're maybe not having such a good day, or things don't look, or they feel like giving up, or their hope is lost. Yeah. I can direct them to this. because there are poems of love, poems of submission, poems of provision, just reminding us of how if God did this for you at that time, he'll take care of you this time. Poems of submission where we have to bring ourselves in submission to his will to see him work and accept the fact that if we have an issue that we found that we can't handle or we can't fix, if we just submit to him, we can watch him do the work to bring us out of that valley we're in.
Yeah.
And so I tear up. It's an emotional thing for me because spiritual poems of encouragement and with things that are going on in the world around us, there's war, there's hatred, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on around us. We need encouraging every day of our lives to just make the next step. And so this has blessed a lot of people. It blessed me as I was receiving those poems. And that was my prayer. God, if you able me to release this, I just pray that. And it wasn't that my prayer was, I want to be rich out this book. I wanted people to be able to receive from God, just like I received when he was giving me those words. I wanted them to be able to experience that. And it's so rewarding when people contact me back and say, I love your book. This is what it did for me, or this is my favorite poem. And it's so rewarding, and yet so humbling.
Yeah. There's a book that I'll pull out every now and then. It's called The Valley of Vision, and it has, prayers from Puritan writers, and it's just history. It's church history where people have kind of put their prayers or their poems together, and you start to recognize this is how people prayed during that season or that life or that history. And so it's really great to be able to write these things down so that people can look into it and see the value in these words, and be able to kind of reflect upon their own lives and their own way that they're praying or they're understanding of who God is. And so it's definitely a great opportunity for people to do that. So, I mean, we're talking about poems, we're talking about prayers. I think it's really important too, because there is there is opposition to prayer now. Every time something bad happens, people kind of go on social media and they say, hey, let's pray about this. Let's get together and pray. And now I've been seeing a little bit more of just oppositions to, hey, prayer doesn't work. It's not helping. So what do you say when maybe someone doesn't personally come up to you and say, hey, prayer is useless. But if you hear that statement, how do you respond?
Carefully, very carefully. Maybe lead into a conversation about what it is that they're experiencing that makes them feel like prayer doesn't work. Once you get a feel for what led them to that feeling, that emotion, most times there's something you've experienced, because if that person was allowed to come to you with it, there's an opportunity for you to minister to them about the situation. And so 9 times out of 10, if I've had any negative rebuke, I guess, to come in regards to God and prayer, I've had a situation to happen where I can share with them what prayer did for me in the situation. But there's a point where you have to move you out of the way, pray about it sincerely, and you leave it alone for you to be able to see the true results of the prayer. And so that has happened a couple of times. And they've had to come back and say, okay, this happened and the situation turned around. Because you have to move yourself out of the way. There are situations that happen that are bigger than us.
I mean, I love that, because your first answer isn't to, well, they tell me this and I'm going to tell them that. Because that's not neighboring. That's not next level neighboring either.
Exactly.
It's the idea of, I want to know a little bit more about why it's important for you to say that, because I want to talk to that to that value. I want to talk to that idea, not to the thing that you've given me. I'm not just going to take it and say, all right, well, this is what you're saying. I don't know why you're saying that. Right. And so that is a huge thing that we need to get better at doing, especially on social media. You know, you'll read somebody's post and you're just like, oh, and so you start attacking that. Just, hey, love to get some coffee. Let's talk about it. So we need to get better at doing that. So thank you for that. That is what we need to do, because that's peopling. That's actually caring, having compassion on people. Because it's not that everyone's going to agree with you, but it would be good for them to be able to articulate why they don't, so that they can even ground their understanding.
Exactly.
Right? So, you know, I've always found that sometimes someone's very passionate about something and you get about 3 questions in, and then they start to lose their ground because someone else maybe have told them that. And so now they're just repeating it, and that's not even theirs. Yeah. So it's just great because it helps them ground the things that they believe as well. So, all right. So we've been talking a little bit about kind of what's going on now and education. I'd love to kind of point us a little bit towards the future of Americus. You know, I really look forward to being here and impacting the city, just being a good neighbor, just loving people well. I'd love to see, do you have like any particular future plans personally? Like where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Of course, retired. But I still would love to do something in regards to our young people. I have a nonprofit for mentoring. And so I'd love to see, I'll be more involved in that and recruiting volunteers for mentorships for our young people because there's a desperate need for it. I worked high school most of my teaching career, but this past 3 years, I've been at middle school and I didn't understand the move, and I questioned God. Said, I don't know what it is you're doing here. I'm going to be obedient, but I don't understand this. And I don't feel like I was very well welcomed in the environment, but yet I was there on assignment. And so I had to be there. This year, God has revealed so much to me in regard to why I'm there. And so I'm walking in purpose, building rapport with those different age groups of children. Because if you're going to mentor them, you need to know them at this high school level, you know, these at the middle school level. And then the prior year, I was mentoring a group physically at the primary school level. So he allowed me to have access to like 3 different stages in a child's life. So that's a great place to be, to figure out what it is they need, what kind of people they need to be able to speak into them to help bring out what's underlying, what's lying dormant in them that maybe hasn't been pulled out. Just as I talked about those 3 mentors that I had, they saw education as my future career. At the time, I didn't. But because somebody else cared enough to look at me, to see into me, that's my passion. And I'll be doing things, of course, with my ministry, with my church, just keeping busy, but doing a lot of positive things to bridge the gap of miscommunication or, well, this is their world and this is mine. I'm not leaving my world. No, we need to come together to love thy neighbor. Yeah. I think that will be one of the most important and difficult challenges, right, in the next 5-10 years is being able to bridge the gap and figure out what are the ingredients in order to do that. And I think you've mentioned a few of them is, you know, being humble, listening, coming firm as well, loving them well, and common ground, trying to figure out what drives them, so that they can kind of see their value in that as well. So you mentioned something earlier about transparency. That's another one, because even raising my own children, now I have spoken with other parents that feel like they don't share different areas of their life or different experiences they've had with their children because I'm not their friend. But you'd be amazed at if you just opened up and shared, I didn't say all of your life, shared some of those things that you've experienced. First of all, they'll realize that you're human too, that you've erred along the way, that you're not this perfect being. So possibly I can listen to what you're saying. You might just understand where I'm coming from if this happened to you. So be a real person.
Yeah.
And stop dreaming up these false identities to look perfect before men when none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big...
So being transparent.
As a parent, as a teacher,
yes,
as an influence in
as a
people's
friend,
lives. Yeah.
In ministry, all walks of life.
Yeah. I've told Judah a few times, he's 12 years old, about to be 13. And I've mentioned to him, when we're talking about education, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about intimacy even of, as he's growing up, I said, listen, if there's anything that you hear that's new to you, I want to let you know that we want to be honestly the first voice into those things.
Yes.
I want to say that to you before you hear it from someone else.
Exactly.
And if you have questions about it, we want to be the people that you can come to, because my parents, they were great. I love my parents, but there's just moments just like, I'm not supposed to say these things. And so guess what I did?
Didn't say them.
I didn't say it to them. I went and found friends who have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And we talked about these words and we talked about what they meant. And I was totally off, and I had a wrong view. And so if we can help students to see that, hey, look, there are people that really care about you. I think that's really, really important, is to come around students right now. So, and mentorship. So tell me a little bit about the mentorship program and what you hope to see for your volunteers that come and then the students that will experience that.
Okay. It's a branch of a nonprofit. Is the Matters of My Heart, Mentoring Matters. I love people that have come from some of the same areas. The children you're going to attempt to mentor, that you've come through some of the same struggles, so you do understand, and that you could be a model to look at, to say, well, if that happened for you and you grew up in the same neighborhood I did, then I can do something great too. If you became a principal, if you became a mayor, whatever, if you became a local pastor, then I can do the same stuff, and that person be sincere and transparent about what they've experienced, where they've been. Former educators are great to have, because they poured into young people's life at one season in their life, but this would be a different level, yet you're using some of the same skills and compassion that you used as an educator to bring to a different generation of children who may not be seeing that side from home. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've seen in Americus? You've been here for, a long time. What are some positive things that you're excited about just for the city in general, and that you want to maybe even see in the future? What are some new things that you would love to see?
Some of the things that I see that are becoming beneficial for the city, we have more community events going on that encourage that love thy neighbor mindset, to bring all of the community together, like the music fests and the food truck events and different things that are going on to bring people outside of their comfort zones to mix and mingle. I think that's great. Yeah, I love to see those things go on, continue on, and maybe even add more events. Now, I do think maybe eventually we could benefit from having some form of panels with younger people involved, talking about the different adversities they're faced with. Because if you're going to get an understanding of where they're coming from, somebody has to listen to them. And so I think having platforms available for them to come speak reality about it, not be judged about it, but to hear what they're saying and to actually try to come up with solutions to be able to help them better cope with the issues they're facing, how to better handle stress, how to better figure out future careers and all these things that they're afraid to address or don't know how to communicate. So just listen to them from the point they're at right now to try to bring them up to another level.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Is there anybody right now that you can name that you are excited about within the city that's doing some great things or about to step up and you just see it and you just like want to just encourage that, or you've been encouraging them that, you know, that's going to be making an impact in the next, 5-10 years?
My pastor has great vision. Pastor George Frank Muntz. He has great vision that's inclusive of, I think, the entire city with no one left out because he cares for the community. He cares for the people in the community. He cares for the children. He cares for the elderly. He cares about education. And so he has huge vision about bringing the city together through a variety of things. And so I would love to see him be elevated and his vision be blessed because I know he's a man after God's heart. And he wouldn't be one that would leave certain groups out or, no, we can't help. I think he'd be inclusive of everyone because of the heart he has. Yeah. So that's great. He, we've had some conversations, him and I, over lunch and breakfast, and he's given me time to talk with him and get a chance to hear his story. And I know he's really busy, so it's really great that even on a personal level, he just would sit down and have some conversations with me. So he's a great guy. I'm very thankful for him. So, guy full of humility.
Yes. So, all right. Well, as we're wanting to see some future things that are really, really good for our city, we've talked a lot about what those elements are to kind of, see that take place, just constantly doing these things, building relationships, putting ourselves out there. Like when I say sacrifice, I mean, we're going to get hurt when you build new relationships because you don't know exactly what it looks like or what it's supposed to look like. You just know that you're willing to do it. And as leaders, we always find yourself being the first one for being transparent. And sometimes that backfires on you because the person is not transparent, or they go and they tell your business. You're just like, wait a minute, but that's what leaders do is they put themselves out there to try to model as much as possible. And so thank you so much for putting yourself out there, being sacrificial in that way, not so that people can see you, but that people can see the model that needs to take place so that others can benefit from it, to say, if she's going to take the first step, then maybe I can take the first step too in my relationships, with my friendships, and in my work. And so, we definitely want Americus to be a place where people love, to work, love to be in relationships with others, make new relationships, build new things. And so we just need to continue to promote things like this. So thank you so much. We're going to do a little bit of rapid fire questions because that's what we do at the very end of each of these. And so I want to make sure to give you some time. So just really quickly, just some fun stuff. So we're kind of, we're recording this kind of during the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But what are some of your favorite holidays? Do you have a favorite holiday or just a favorite time to relax? And you're in the school system, so you have different times off. When is the best time for you to take off? Or
summer?
Yeah.
Wish it were longer. We used to have longer summers because that gives you time to take care of all those things that you've neglected through the year because you're taking care of school business, and spend time with family. I love Christmas time because we do have a couple of weeks off. Gives you time to catch up with things at home and spend quality family time.
Yes.
To love on your loved ones. So those times are special to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Are you a morning person or a night person? You like staying up late, getting up early?
I'm definitely a morning person.
Okay, nice. So you just wake up with a smile.
Ready to go. Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
That's awesome. That's so
I kept
good.
my great niece this weekend, and I thought about it. I said, "Gosh, she's kind of like you on that note." She wakes up and she looks for me. I was around the corner in the restroom, and I said, "Hey, are you looking for me?" And she sits there. And she develops this huge smile on her face. I said, "You are definitely your auntie's niece." Because it's morning. I wake up thankful, grateful that I woke up.
Yeah.
And so why should I frown?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's reason to smile. And so I'm grateful that she has that little same
that's great.
chipperness when she wakes up.
That's great. Now, are you a breakfast person? Do you eat breakfast or do you...
I don't have so much time now. I think probably after I come out of work, I want to be able to enjoy going to sit down and have breakfast out because I'm on the run. I'm trying to get there. I have duty. I have to, responsibilities at work. So I'm looking forward to getting it. That's another thing with being off for the summer.
Yeah.
Because I used to always love cooking breakfast for my kids and us sitting down together to eat.
Nice.
Yeah. And we had these family rules that when we're sitting and we're eating, we don't talk on the phone. We don't text. We're talking with each other. We're spending time with each other. So those values are very important to me.
All right. Okay. Are you an animal person? We didn't talk about any. Do you have any cats, dogs, or any types of animals?
I am not an animal person. My kids fooled me about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
They wanted a puppy so bad, and okay, we get the puppy and. He grows up to be this huge, oh my God, he's so huge. And he just got to be too much. And I says, you know what? We have a very busy schedule and I don't ever want to feel like we're neglecting an animal. So rather than mistreat them, I figure it's better not to have them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my sons had a little hamster or gerbil. How do you?
Yeah, gerbil. Yeah.
Gerbil. Yeah. He didn't quite make it. And so I said, I just don't think we're cut out for the pet thing. Had goldfish. They didn't make it. So, yeah. So,
that's right.
let them live. You want them to live, don't send them over my house.
Right. That's right. All right. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be and why that particular place?
I want to go to Hawaii.
Okay.
It's beautiful. I know people that have been there. I said, so tell me, is it as beautiful as pictures I've seen or shows on television? Is the water really that beautiful? And they tell me it is. I love water.
Nice.
Love beaches and seas, oceans. And so I want to go to experience Hawaii.
Nice. Okay. All right. That's fine. That's great. All right. If you could be an expert in any particular subject right now, what would that be?
If I could be an expert in any particular subject, probably computer science, since I'm teaching that. I probably would need to be more of more knowledgeable than I am already about it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally understand. Well, listen, Pam, thank you so much for coming and being a part of the podcast, getting a chance to hear a little bit of your story and see what you're doing, and looking forward to a future Americus where we're just constantly building off of the things that we talked about even today. Yes. And so thank you so much for coming on, and we'd love to hear an update, in the next year or two, just what's going on with you in your life. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So we're good. He's going to put that.